Friends, welcome. For some time we have been discussing the issues relating to origin, evolution, creation, etc. Two major aspects of creation are good and evil, or divinity and evil. We had discussed about the aspects of the presence of divinity, but we have not discussed the issue of evil. If we go back to the origin, we find that the origin has started from silence. Silence, which is a state of being in twilight, that is, light and darkness merged into a environment which exists often in the mornings or in the evenings after sunset or mornings before sunrise. This twilight is basically a mix of light and darkness, which we can look at as good and evil. We are all aware that God is the source and end of all that exists. God exists in silence and all other states like creation, like evolution, etc. Silence, which we considered as the initial state, was a Gondoli state, a state in which darkness and light were merged and presented a state of balance where nothing existed or everything existed in silence. Then at a particular time, a desire awoke, or a time came for events to happen, and Big Bang occurred, which caused separation of light from darkness or divinity from evil, which in philosophy is seen as Adi Shakti and Shiva. This manifestation of Adi Shakti or primordial energy from silence gave rise to darkness or evil. This was the first origin of the evil. Indian philosophy says that in balanced state, goddess, who is seen as light, keeps darkness underfoot or keep Rakshasa under the foot. When Big Bang happened, or Adi Shakti decided to create creation, this darkness escaped from the feet of the goddess and emerged as evil in the creation. Thus, creation, which is the desire of God, expressed in various forms, events and objects in the creation, was affected by goodness and evil. This presence of light makes darkness vanish, and hence the struggle between the darkness or the evil and goodness is eternal, ever since the beginning of creation, and is expected to continue till the end of creation. In this process, self-realization or knowing yourself is the path through which we can know the good and evil and use goodness to vanquish evil by good practices in the daily life. This is the aspect of self-realization or Sahaja Yoga. We will discuss this topic under background of part 1, 2, 3, 4, and emergence of divinity and evil in the creation and in objects and elements and evolution. And then finally, we'll look at the role of self-realization in divinity and evil and conclude with some remarks to say how the good and evil can be understood, known, and how self-realization can be used to vanquish evil from existence. We had discussed in part 1, origin and evolution, that it was the emergence of Adi Shakti, first from silence to Parambrahma to Sadashiva, and then Shiva and Shakti and Adi Shakti, who used her powers to divide herself into 3 parts known as Triganatmika Prakriti, that is Mahasaraswati, Mahalakshmi, Mahakali, and this together with the evolution of energy and consciousness gave birth to gods, human beings, and Rakshasas, who were ultimately known as creation on that. Thus, if you look at it, this rise of Adi Shakti or emergence of Adi Shakti, which philosophy sees as Shiva and Shakti, but science sees as energy and consciousness. Energy transformed to give birth to the matter, and consciousness transformed to give various levels of intelligence, and two together gave birth or evolution of matter and living forms in existence. In this process, if you look at creation, which was basically started from Big Bang, from silence to Big Bang, the sound of Om or separation of Shiva and Shakti gave birth to first light and darkness, which exist in the creation as divinity or positive energy, and Rakshasas or evil or negative energy. Two together became the cause of emergence of 4 levels of existence as physical, subtle, causal, and supercausal, and this light and evil or darkness affected all 4 levels in one way or the other, except that the supercausal is the pure superconsciousness where God, Paramatma, exists as God, as Shiva, as Atma, and Parvati as Prakriti on that. This emergence of the 4 levels of existence and transformation of energy gave birth to various forms of matter, starting from space, energy, gases, liquids, and solids, which further united together with the emergence of consciousness gave birth to the life forms, from cell to waterborne life to landborne life to airborne life, and higher lives like human beings and super beings known as yogis in today's world. Therefore, light and darkness emerged with creation, which emergence of goodness and evil, and emergence of gods and gurus. Gods, the Savtaras, is an example of evolution, wherein the waterborne Matsya to Kurma to Narsingh to Vaman to Ram to Krishna to Ram, Krishna, Buddha, and Kalki, the evolution took place, and divinity expressed as positive energy in the creation. Same way, the gurus emerged from Raja Janak to Abraham to Moses to Confucius to Abraham to Muhammad Sahib to Zoroaster to Socrates to Lao Tse to Guru Nanak and Sainath, and laid the seat of various forms of thoughts which are known as religions in the creation. But 2 important aspects. While the divinity was rising, the negative force evil was also rising in the form of Rakshasas, and while gurus were rising in the positive form, the negative gurus were also rising in the form of other gurus like Shukracharya, etc., who taught Rakshasas or negative forces how to control the positive and act in the world for the spread of evil on that. Thus, good and evil existed together from beginning and emerged in the creation as the forces of existence, giving birth to positive nature, positive behavior and negative behavior, positive objects and negative objects, positive life and negative life, and this is the cycle or level of existence which even today plays a great role in peace, anger, fights, agony in the creation on that. Thus, this aspect of divinity, which was light, and evil, which was darkness, affected every form of existence. That is, earth, the places on the earth. Say, for example, we see the story of Afghanistan and we see the story of Hindustan. We see the clear-cut activity of goodness and evil, and this happens at various places. Science also accepts that objects or items existing at various places on earth have different level or different characteristics than at the other place, and these are known as qualities, and in the Sahaja or yoga form these are known as vibrations. Thus there are positive vibrations and negative vibrations which define the characteristics or quality of people, the objects, the vegetation, the life and existence at various places on earth. Like we say that Kundalini exists in Bharat, heart exists in heart of Virata. There are two forms of existence, Virata and human. Virat is divine being, God creator, who is in whom all items in existence exist. Earth, planets, moon, star, etc. Everything exists within Virata. But within a place, there is a matter and there is a life form. And the divinity and evil make impact at place on earth, places, planets, stars, and celestial spaces. Same way in matter, in atom, like electron is seen as Mahakali, proton is seen as Mahasaraswati, neutron is seen as Mahalakshmi to express the forms of divinity, and then there are also negative radiations which take place. Same in the cell, the various aspects of the cell, like nucleus acts like Virata or the brain, and various things like cell body and the centrioles and vacuoles and nuclei all have the form of divinity and also some form of negativity, which taken together define divinity and evil in earth, matter, cell or life forms in existence or in the creation. Same way now, if we look at the life forms, it evolved from the lowest form of consciousness to the highest form in human being, and it is basically the evolution of consciousness. The functions of consciousness evolve through the brain-mind system, and hence we have the unconscious mind, subconscious mind, conscious mind, superconscious mind in various bodies in the living, starting from Abhima to the Homo sapiens and higher forms of existence as we see in human beings today on that. Same way, divinity is present in the Kundalini instrument, which is present in Virat as shown on the left side and in a human being as shown on the right side. In the Virat, the nadis and chakras, which are the more major aspects of the Kundalini instrument, exist as Adi nadis and Adi chakras, and in the human being they exist as nadis and chakras or plexuses and nerves in human being. If you look at a human being has various aspects of divinity present. The nadis, three nadis, left Mahakali, right Mahasaraswati, center Mahalakshmi, and same way the various organs. Sri Ganesha present at Mooladhara chakra, Kundalini in the sacrum bone, Swadhisthana chakra as Brahmadev Saraswati, Nabhi chakra as Lakshmi Narayan, Anhat chakra as Durga, Sitaram, Shiv Parvati, Vishuddhi chakra as Radha Krishna, Rukmani Vitthal, and Vishnu Maya, Agya chakra as Christ, Mary, and Buddha and Mahavir on the left, right, respectively, and finally the Sahasrar, which is the seat of Kalki or God Almighty, whom we define by various names: Allah, God, Paramatma, Ishwar, Jehovah, etc. etc. Thus, divinity is present in a human being, which we had discussed in the previous discussions also, but there is also the reflection of evil in various forms in the existence. To get over it, now this is where the role of self-realization comes, that energy and consciousness radiate as Paramchaitanya or vibrations in the human beings, and if we see our left side, it shows the past or Mahakali, right side is the Saraswati and future, and central as Mahalakshmi or balance. Thus, by knowing these radiations or this state of energy and consciousness known as Paramchaitanya, we can understand the existence of goodness and evil in human beings, and by sitting in meditation, as has been discussed in the previous discussions on self-realization and shown in the diagram here, that we first clear our three channels, the Mahakali, Mahasaraswati, Mahalakshmi, and sit in meditation, and then awaken the Kundalini by going through heart chakra to the Nabhi chakra to the Swadhisthana, and upwards in the reverse journey to Swadhisthana, to Nabhi, to Anhat, to Vishuddhi, to Agya, and to Sahasrar. And when we feel these cool vibrations on our hand, through this, if there is a burning in the hand, there is a heat in the hand, this is a reflection of negativity in the body or environment around us. And if there are cool breeze, then it's a presence of positivity or divinity inside us and in the environment around us. Thus, through self-realization, we get empowered to distinguish between the good and the evil, and by knowing the good and evil, we can vanquish evil by awakening Kundalini and getting self-realization. Once we awaken Kundalini, we get united to Virata, or Atma gets united to Paramatma, which is the state of yoga, and this state is the state of yogis in which no evil can ever affect a enlightened human being known as yogi or a Sahaja yogi, and this is the state of union between Atma and Paramatma. Thus, we can conclude that God is present everywhere. From silence, it emerges as Shiva, as the pure consciousness, and as Shakti, as the primordial energy. This gives rise to the God's desire and creation, which includes the good and bad, or light and darkness, and Adi Shakti, who is actually the source of every living form, and all these exist in creation. Thus, good and evil both exist in the creation and affect human beings, objects, and everything else in the living. And we can vanquish evil by awakening our Kundalini, which is a reflection of Adi Shakti, and making our Atma, which is a manifestation of Shiva, unite with God, which is the manifestation of God Almighty, as Sahasrar or Paramatma. And this divine path for yoga, or union of Atma with Paramatma, becomes the instrument of vanquishing evil in the creation. God bless all. Thank you.